I'm Dr. Darby Proctor. I'm an associate professor in the psychology department, and I also am the chair of our undergraduate psychology programs, and I run our animal behavior concentration.
And my name is Dr. Kate Talbot. I'm an assistant professor, and I am one of the 2 faculty members in the animal behavior concentration in school psychology here at Florida Tech.
The animal behavior concentration in psychology is part of our psychology degrees. You can get a BA or a BS in psychology, and then you get to choose one of several different concentrations, one of which is animal behavior. So a lot of people wonder why animal behavior is in the psych department, because most people, when they think about psychology, they think about humans and therapy, but psychology is really the study of mind and behavior, and I am just one of the psychologists who doesn't study people. Instead, we look at other minds and other behaviors to try and understand how we became human and what similarities and differences there are in terms of cognitive abilities and behaviors in other species compared to humans.
The type of research that I'm interested in includes looking at sociality from both the proximate mechanisms underlying sociality as well as the ultimate mechanisms underlying sociality. And so what I mean by that is that for the proximate mechanisms being more those things that occur within one's own lifetime, and that can include the biological or any sort of physiological responses, as well as the ultimate being how this behavior evolved and how it functions. And so I study this primarily in non-human primates. I started at Florida Tech in 2020, and so I've been here for 2 years, and part of the reason that I was attracted to this job was due to the partnership that they had with Brevard Zoo. We have a great relationship with them, and that was primarily started by Dr. Proctor.
I spent over a decade working with chimpanzees. They are really, really cool, but one of the reasons I wanted to come to Florida Tech was because they have spider monkeys. Now, spider monkeys are not chimpanzees, but they have some really interesting behavioral similarities with both chimpanzees and humans. They're a really cool species because there isn't a whole lot known about their cognition, because in the wild they live high up in the tops of the trees, and so it's very hard to study them with any sort of fine-grained detail. So at Brevard Zoo we have a small research facility, the Animal Cognition Center, where we can bring in the spider monkeys voluntarily. We call their name, they come in, and we can work with them one-on-one. So one thing that we're working on right now is a project that we're calling tail cognition. Spider monkeys have the longest prehensile tail of any primate. A prehensile tail just means you can grasp onto things with it. And a hallmark of the primate lineage is that we have thumbs, but spider monkeys actually lost their thumbs over evolutionary time. They're so adapted to living in the tops of the trees that their hands, essentially look like little hands without thumbs, which makes it a lot easier to swing through the trees. Your thumb sort of doesn't get in the way. But because they lost their thumbs, they have a little bit of dexterity issues handling, fine motor objects, because we use our thumbs for everything. And so I'm sort of working off the theory right now that their tail has actually evolved to become somewhat of a thumb. And so they can pick up things with their tails that are, really, really tiny. So they have a ton of dexterity in that. But one thing that's interesting about the tail is that it's in the midline of the body, but our bodies are lateralized, right? So the right side of our brain controls the left side of our body, the left side of our brain controls the right side of our body. And so what sort of controls this tail that is right in sort of the midline of it? And so we're interested in exploring a variety of tasks with them to see what all they can do with this tail. So things like putting objects in a box. If they put their tail in the box, can they then tell what object it is, right? So can they translate that information that they're getting from their tail into other sorts of behaviors and knowledge states?
We actually went to the same graduate school, and so we have a long history of challenging each other and working well together. We have a very collaborative partnership, and so, which is great. We have this overlap, but I think the area that I differ is where I have more of a biological perspective or approach to some of the research I do, and Dr. Proctor really remains within the cognitive approach and experimental psychology approach, where I'm a little bit more biological, ecologically based. So we have a different undergraduate degree, which gives us a little bit of a different perspective towards approaching our research. I am really excited about working on 2 different projects with, in particular, spider monkeys at the Brevard Zoo. And one of them is looking at the looking at responses to inequity or getting paid less than a partner for the same amount of work. So humans respond negatively to inequity in all different contexts, and it turns out non-human primates, at least some species of non-human primates, do as well. And so we're interested in the evolutionary reason for this behavior, right? And one idea is that it is thought to sort of help maintain long-term cooperation, so that when you're not getting your fair share, it may be a cue to find a more equitable partner. And so right now, we don't actually know whether spider monkeys cooperate in the wild. They live in the very upper levels of the canopy, and they go very quickly through the top levels of the canopy. And so it's difficult to study their behavior from down on the ground as you're chasing after them. And so Brevard Zoo has a really unique opportunity to study this incredible species because they're highly intelligent. They live in these fission-fusion societies just like humans do, where we kind of live in our family unit, and then we have a larger social network that we interact with, often at parties and other events like that. Brevard Zoo has tripled the size of its spider monkey enclosure. And in addition to that, they built a cognition center where it is housed out of the rain, and it's an area where we can actually do sort of standardized testing with the monkeys. And it is all connected to their habitat through these sky trails, so they're able to voluntarily come into the Cognition Center to work with us. And I should note that all of the participation with the spider monkeys is voluntary in nature. In fact, we usually have so many spider monkeys that want to work with us at once, we have to close off the other spider monkeys so we can focus on working with one or two individuals at a time. One of the most rewarding aspects of my research is the positive impact that we can have on these non-human primates' lives. For instance, we have recently answered the call for 2 infant spider monkeys who were confiscated at the US-Mexico border and were being smuggled into the US likely as victims of the pet trade. So we were able to provide them with a new home and a new troop and a life that they would not have been able to have had without Brevard Zoo. We actually have undergraduate students that help us collect a lot of the data that we're doing, that we're working on. And so this helps us because we need that labor, and it also helps the zoo. And we were able to sort of help watch these animals because the care staff don't always have time to do all the observing that we can, and we help them make more science-based management decisions.
The other part that makes me really passionate to do this job is the success that our students in the animal behavior program have. We have undergraduate students who have gone on to some really amazing job opportunities. Right now we have a student working at Epcot Disney Under the Seas, so she's doing dolphin training. We have another one who works at Save the Chimps, which is a chimpanzee retirement sanctuary. And so our students, not only do they get this really high quality training at Florida Tech and our partnership with Brevard Zoo, they're actually getting jobs in this area that are providing them, what they actually wanted from a career when they started thinking about going into the animal behavior concentration. Success in our department often means doing the highest quality research that we possibly can and getting undergraduates involved in that research. Our animal behavior program is pretty special because there are not many places in the country where undergraduates can get real hands-on, meaningful experience working with exotic animals. And our partnership with Brevard Zoo allows us to get students out to the zoo and get involved in that very real research.